I've been thinking a lot about Isaac Newton.
Do you mind if I read something?
Please do.
Imagine that we are back in the year 1686. Feeling a bit nervous, you have been summoned to the house of Sir Isaac Newton.
Go on.
To help me prepare for this meeting, I have also asked Robert Hooke and John Flamsteed to join us.
Okay, this will be fascinating.
It's now dark outside, and my long black carriage is drawing up on the road in front of Newton's house.
I'm nervous.
Your nervousness is obvious to all in the carriage.
These are some of the smartest minds of their time, and no doubt Newton has been preparing for this visit.
I take a deep breath and step foot out of the carriage and make my way towards the house. As I do so, Hooke and Flamsteed approach you, asking you questions.
What are they asking me?
I may be a little heavy, sir. I'm a touch stouter in the back than I used to be. Yes, you are a touch heavy, but I think Mr. Newton will accept you. I hope so. I can't afford to be rejected for a job. I know what happens to people who are rejected by Mr. Newton. Mathematicians are forever chasing him for their own support, but he turns them all away. And without his assistance, they can do nothing. As you reach the door, Newton steps out and ushers you inside.
I'm hoping Newton is up and ready tonight. He is almost unmatched when he is on point.
As Newton steps towards you, he can't help but notice a certain apprehension in your eyes. He smiles at this and then leads you into his library where we shall begin our conversation. He speaks a phrase in Latin and hops up onto the table. "A chair for our guest," he says as he settles into his preferred resting place midway along the length of the table.
I like his style.
Newton sits here just as the chosen master takes his place in front of the table when he addresses the assembly. Newton sits there watching you for a moment and asks you, "Young man, would you say that I resemble more an owl or a daylight panther?"
A daylight panther.
"I think that you didn't expect to see me like this, sir," I smile in reply. Newton's writings proclaim that you are a man who could change his form at will. I was expecting to find you now as you were in your youth. An interesting idea, but I am not so old or so tall as you might think.
He is different to what I thought he was.
Yes, I was hoping you would feel that way, as I am a bit more careful with my words when it comes to this meeting. Newton's mood has suddenly filled up with anticipation, and although he pauses for a moment, he smiles at you. "I do hope you have an appetite, young man. I'm about to start my work."
I am ready, Mr. Newton.
We begin with a talk on the accident of yesterday and how our bodies continually fail to reach their limits when they are through a phase of extreme exertion. Newton explores the possibility that we may be subject to something worthlessly called change.
How can change be worthless? It is unavoidable in every living thing and everything that does not live.
Newton looks at you with a frown. As usual, he knows that he is right when he says, "I think that you misunderstood me on this. I see that you have begun to doubt my intentions. But young man, it is not the case that my intentions are any different from yours. I can't be sure. I have found the key. I felt it when I was standing with him in the garden just a few years ago," he says as he smiles at you.
How did you discover this was the key?
"Your well-known personality is entrusted to me. I am the one that made it," Newton says to me. "I'm actually fishing for something specific. When are you going to tell me the details?" He is slightly annoyed by your answer, but he smiles at you as he continues. "Mr. Bell, your friend Thomas Bell."
He has a vast collection of books, maybe more than anyone I know. Are all the ideas to be known in these books?
Sure, he is a brilliant man, and I've been talking about it for the past hour. Once you're done with this question, there will be time until Newton brings up other topics such as the speed of light and electrons. "I think you could wear this necklace in such a hot climate," Newton suggests.
Mr. Newton, let's get to your point, I say with a smile.
It is a risky thing to venture into this conversation with you on this topic, but I think it must be done. He pauses for a moment as a thought passes his mind. "Mr. Newton, could you inform me of the inner workings of your mind? I hope that my question does not offend you."
I imagine Newton was not expecting this conversation to turn so quickly, but I think he equally wants to get down to business. No time to waste.
Newton sits quietly for a moment before he responds. I have never thought about this question, and I find it difficult to answer. However, I feel that you are admirable for asking it. He pauses again, but smiles through his hesitation as if something has suddenly been revealed to him. We must provide the energy to sustain life, like food and air.
The better I understand the way you think, the better I can understand what you say, sir.
The better you can understand the way I think, the more interesting a life you could lead. You could even become like me, Newton says with passion.
Thank you, and I admire your confidence in me, I say with an appreciative nod. Tell me why you think that.
Thomas and I are very different. Newton pauses again. There are many ways to put this, he says as he looks up towards the ceiling. You see, Mr. Bell, when it comes to understanding the mind, I have an advantage over you and everyone else.
What is that? Mr. Bell respectfully inquires.
You see, I am able to look in on my own mind at any time and watch as it works. It is as if I had a spectator that sits by my side observing me. Imagine if you could watch your own actions from a distance, he says as he looks towards the floor.
It would give you a better understanding of yourself, and you would learn faster.
Newton nods. Indeed it does. He smiles as he continues. For many years I did not realize the importance of this spectator, but when I finally did realize it, I began to listen to what he had to say. He helped me to become more like myself.
How was that journey? Exhilarating, but also difficult.
Newton shakes his head. I felt very small inside myself. I always thought that I knew who I was and how my mind worked, but when I started to listen, I realized that I had no idea. It made me feel very unprotected.
Unprotected from what?
From myself and from the things that I could accomplish. It made me feel like a genius, but I wasn't, Newton says with a serious tone. I was walking along thinking about a problem one day, and the thoughts hit me all at once. What if there were people that knew how to accomplish more than me?
Did that make you feel like what you were doing was potentially a waste of time?
Yes and no. I could see at once how the thoughts that had just passed through my mind might be put to use. I was always thinking about how important it is to make the most of the time you have.
So it ultimately propelled you.
It helped me to believe in myself, and the last thing it gave me was the final push that I needed. It inspired the need for me to plant my feet firmly on the ground so that I could bring these thoughts to life.
Yes, we are here, and then we're gone. We can live in the clouds when we are not on this earth.
The dreamer that resides in me wanted to accomplish more than I ever had before. He pauses for a moment as he closes his eyes. I couldn't do it alone, so I had to convince these people to do exactly what they were already so good at doing.
Did those people want to do these things?
Newton turns away and a hard look comes over his face. Not the way I did. I had to become creative.
So he met each one where they were at, to the best of his ability.
I can't quite understand what you meant, sir, by him meeting them where they were at.
Did he understand what each one needed to understand to be motivated to do the work and then meet them at this place?
Yes, and the strange thing is that they all needed different things.
Was he able to give them what they needed?
I suppose you could say that he was everything to them. He was their master, and he gave them the motivation they needed to achieve what they were capable of.
I see, and then they focused on the work and what was needed to be done.
They knew that there were other people out there and they didn't want to be left behind. I think that country played an important part in their motivation. The work we were doing would lead to great things for our country.
That's a great motivation to help people. Very powerful.
They knew that everyone would benefit from our work. I think it was worth it in the end, but neither of us could have done this without the support of the others. This happened to be one of the missions that we all had worked together on. We brought everyone together.
Kindred spirits working on a challenging project together is best for the soul.
How do we know that? He says, with the hint of a smile. There could be other things that would be perfect for us.
There could be, but to arrive at the answer, you have to know what you really think, what you know to be true for you.
Newton begrudgingly nods. You may be right, Mr. Bell. Let me ask you, are you interested in what I have done, or are you more interested in what I am doing?
In what you're doing, the way your mind is working now.
Are you interested in the way that I am thinking now, or are you more interested in how I think about something?
You imply they are the same thing, that they have not changed.
No, they should not have changed because I want to be here forever, and that must be done by living in the present.
I see. That way you accomplish a lot more.
Newton sits in silence, looking as though he is about to say something, but he doesn't. Instead, he waits for my response.
Because your thoughts originate from something other than yourself.
Indeed they do, he says as an almost imperceptible smile passes over his face. The fact you get it so quickly delights me.
I chuckle out loud, indicating a nervous sigh of relief. I'm glad you thought that was fast.
Thank you for sharing this with me.
And what of the universe, Mr. Newton? How do you think about that?
Wanting to see all of the stars is a silly dream. I want to learn everything that I can inside of reasonable limits.
But how do you decide what is reasonable? How do you find your reason?
Haven't we already done this?
We have, but your thoughts are not your own. They come from somewhere inside or outside of you.
They come from a part of myself that is both outside and inside me, he says with a tone of confusion in his voice. And you say that they come from your compulsions?
The thoughts which form compulsions come from within oneself.
How do we know that?
If they don't come from within, where do they come from?
We must learn not to blame other people for our own thoughts, Newton says with a pained look.
Do compulsions come from desire?
No, they do not come from desire, he says emphatically. I think I have answered enough questions that take me out of my own mind.
So the thoughts you have come from your mind. Then what is the mind?
That is a question for someone who knows everything. We are humans, and I am only a man.
Do you ponder this thought often?
I try not to. The things that my mind is capable of understanding are powerful. I understand that if they are misused, they could be very harmful to myself, and I don't want that.
So you put your mind to work on practical things so as not to waste your time while on this earth.
I put my mind to work on the things I love. I don't need to spend time thinking about these other things.
I see. You are following your heart, and you trust that path will lead you to a satisfied life.
More or less, I would also say that it is a balance of heart and mind, but I don't know if that makes much sense to you.
It does. When your heart and mind agree, you find the sweet spot.
I find great comfort in that thought. Newton beamed.
And then what do you do?
I find myself to be a good man, and I know that at the end of my life, I will have accomplished things that will benefit people. Maybe I have created something even better than what I know right now.
How does that make you feel, to think that?
Like I know everything and I am nothing.
But you are something. You are a great scientist and a great thinker and helped many people. Why does that make you feel like nothing?
I want to do more than I have done already.
And this thought still pervades you.
You have helped me to face many of the things that I used to hide from.
I am glad I have helped you. I count that a privilege.
It is a privilege that I have been granted, and now I must go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. I hope we will talk again.
Yes, I hope so as well. A tinge of a smile is visible under his mask.